Thomas Edward Lawrence was a British archaeologist, military officer, diplomat and writer. In his childhood, this man born in Wales 1888 was nicknamed Ned. As the second of 5 children, he didn't have many choices. His father, Sir Thomas Chapman, divorced his first wife and had his 5 children out of wedlock with Sarah Maiden. His family moved frequently, before finally deciding to settle in Oxford in 1896. In that city, Ned finished school and studied at Jesus College, Oxford. In 1910, Thomas Edward Lawrence graduated with honors from Jesus College. He studied history and religion at the college under Oxford University in England. His thesis was entitled The Influence of the Crusades on European Military Architecture to the End of the 12th Century, showing how much he liked the topic of crusades, which pitted 2 main camps, Christianity and Islam. Lawrence was indeed equipped with quite strong religious knowledge. Since childhood, he was very active in various religious activities and often accompanied the Holy Psalms at the church near his home, which is now known as Gwynedd, Wales in the UK. Who would have thought that Thomas Edward Lawrence would later become a very influential figure in the Arab people's struggle for independence from the control of the Ottoman Empire? Regardless of the methods and efforts used by Lawrence, he was one of the main causes of the outbreak of the Arab Revolution, which ultimately led to the emergence of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Lawrence has known about the Middle East since he was 22 years old. In the last year of the first decade of the 20th century, he sailed to Beirut, now the capital of Lebanon. Lawrence mastered various foreign languages including French, German, Latin, Greek, Arabic, Turkish, Syrian and many more, which made it quite easy for him to be accepted in the various countries he visited. Initially, Lawrence worked as an archaeologist in several countries from the Middle East to North Africa. Involved by experts from the British Museum, he was involved several times in projects to excavate historical objects in Syria and Egypt, until close to 1914. The First World War, which started on July 28, 1914, dragged Lawrence into more serious problems. Before the war broke out, he was asked by the British military from the British Empire to conduct observations in the Negev desert. The desert in the Palestinian region is indeed a strategic route, and any information about it will be very useful for England. The Negev Desert was the main access point for the Ottoman Turkish army if they wanted to carry out an attack. The Ottoman Turkish Caliphate was the conqueror of the Arabian Peninsula at that time. Almost all regions in the Middle East were under its control, and England certainly had interests there apart from its involvement in World War I. At that time, Arabian land was still inhabited by clans who actually fought each other. The Hashim clan became the rulers in Mecca and Medina, while the Saud clan or Bani Saud ruled in Najd, which is still in Saudi Arabia today. For the British, the Banu Hashim who led the Hejaz were very important. In the crucial situation of World War I, the ruler of Hejaz was Siyarif Hussein, who was appointed governor of Mecca by Turkey in 1909. Without even British intervention, the kingdoms in the Arabian Peninsula were actually starting to feel uncomfortable with their status as subordinates of the Ottoman Caliphate in Turkey. One of the causes is the decline of the Ottomans, which is thought to have been triggered by the penetration of modern culture. Surrounded by European progress, the Ottomans began to lose their strength and resilience. One of the efforts to strengthen the Ottomans was to start a modern approach in various fields, from education to weapons. This is what made the Ottomans seen as decadent from the Arabs, because they were seen as starting to move away from Islamic values. Complicated by the emergence of Arab nationalist sentiment, the emergence of Arab resistance to the Ottomans became increasingly unstoppable. And Britain, as the Ottoman opponent in World War I, saw this carefully. Britain, together with France, considers eliminating Turkey's influence in the Arabian Peninsula a necessity if they want to expand their power and influence in the Middle East. The seeds of resistance against the Ottoman Turks had emerged since 1915. In March of that year, Sharif Hussein sent his son Faisal to join Jama'at Arabiya Fatah. This was a movement in Syria, which aimed to gather strength to fight the Ottoman Turkish government. The British did not waste this opportunity. Lawrence was sent to meet Sharif Hussein. Through Lawrence, Britain promised that most of the Arab territories would belong to Sharif Hussein, if he immediately announced resistance to the Ottoman Turks. England was also ready to help with war funds and complete weapons. Britain apparently had prepared another strategy. The lure of Sharif Hussein was actually just a ruse, so that Britain could gain additional strength to fight the Ottoman Turks. Without Sharif Hussein's knowledge, England in 1916 also signed the Sykes-Picot Agreement with France. In essence, the Arab region will later be divided into two. Britain got Iraq, Jordan, Haifa and surrounding areas, while France was given Syria and Lebanon. As for most of the Palestinian territories, they will be under joint control. Apart from that, Britain also signed the Balfour Agreement, which gave international Jews the right to establish a Zionist state in Palestine if the Ottoman Turks were defeated. This was given by England, because the Zionists succeeded in persuading the United States to help the Allies against the German side in the First World War. On October 16, 1916, Lawrence, on British orders, met Sharif Hussein's three sons, namely Ali, Abdullah and Faisal. Lawrence tried to personally approach the emir's children, especially Faisal, who was considered the best candidate to lead the Arab Revolution. This is where Lawrence plays a crucial role. He really blends into Arab life in order to attract the hearts of Faisal and his brothers. Lawrence studied Islam, often attended religious study meetings, dressed in Arabic clothes and said greetings. Finally, Lawrence was involved in many incidents against the Ottoman Turks that occurred in various places. He became Faisal's trusted military advisor. Lawrence's influence was very strategic, so that the Arabs were reluctant and listened to his suggestions with full trust. Aided by British weapons and accompanied by Lawrence, the Hejaz military achieved a series of victories over the Ottoman Turks in the war throughout 1916 to 1918. Lawrence's roles were not only in Mecca or Medina, he was also a winning actor in various other places including Syria and Egypt. One of them was the Battle of Damziaiku, which succeeded in seizing Damascus from Ottoman control. Lawrence also cleverly suggested that the Turks be allowed to carry out the siege of Medina, so that the Arab military could damage the railway line connecting Turkey with the Hijaz. This route, which was built to facilitate especially the pilgrimage from Turkey, is very strategic because it is a means of logistical transportation for the Turkish army. Once the train lines were damaged and disrupted, Turkey's power slowly declined. All Ottoman troops were finally repulsed on September 27, 1918. This meant that England's mission with France to control the Arabian Peninsula was almost certain to be achieved thanks to Lawrence's big contribution, who immediately returned to England after his task was completed. Arif Hussein finally had full power in the Hijaz and was no longer subordinate to Turkey. After he died in 1924, he was succeeded by his eldest son, Prince Ali. Meanwhile, Prince Faisal became ruler in Iraq and Syria, and his other son, Prince Abdullah, became ruler in Jordan. However, the clan's power began to be disturbed by the Bani Saud who ruled Najd. The Bani Saud, who had ruled in Hejaz since the 17th century, were targeting Hussein Ali's power in Hejaz, and again they got British help. He started his campaign by conquering Riyadh. In 1926, under the leadership of Abdul Aziz, the Bani Saud regained control of the Hejaz. The descendants of Sharif Hussein were eliminated from Mecca and Medina. On September 23, 1932, Abdul Aziz declared the name Saudi Arabia as the name of the kingdom, which was a combination of Hijaz and Najd. Abdul Aziz also became the first king of Saudi Arabia. At the end of 1918, after returning to Europe, he assisted England and France in diplomacy with the Arabs. He also returned to serve in the army, including as an intelligence officer for several years before being killed in a motorbike accident near his residence in England on the 19th of May 1935.